What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with the RK Outpost, and when I saw this headline, George Lucas warned Ron Howard about toxic fandom, I was a little taken aback because I couldn't imagine a world where George Lucas used the phrase toxic fandom. Just didn't believe it. And yeah, George Lucas is someone who did take a lot of criticism for the prequel trilogy. A lot from critics, some from fans. But I think that a lot of fans, even though if they didn't necessarily like the prequels, they appreciated the fact that it was George Lucas's vision overall, and that that was his story. So it was hard for me to fathom that he would use the words toxic fandom, and of course he didn't. He did not say that, but we're going to get into why this headline is titled this and what Ron Howard actually said. While claiming to be a fan of a movie franchise often means you have an undying love of a series, the world of Star Wars has proven the opposite reaction, as some viewers claim to be devout fans and go on to express their hatred of various components of the franchise. So this right here from the opening paragraph, I knew what was going on with Patrick Kavanaugh and this article on comicbook.com. Just because you're a fan of something, just because you're a diehard fan of something, does not mean that you're going to open your mouth up and wait for them to shovel shit into it just because it says Star Wars. When you're a diehard fan of something, when you've been a fan of something that's existed for decades in a certain way, and then a massive corporation comes and buys it and changes it and destroys the legacy of it, destroys characters that you love, I think people have a little bit of a right to be upset with that. Don't you, Patrick? But maybe that's just me. With Solo, a Star Wars story director, Ron Howard, claiming that George Lucas warned him about the toxicity in the franchise when he took on the filmmaking job. Clearly, that toxicity didn't deter Howard from delivering that fan base Solo, as Lucas reminded him that the films were for the fans above all else. Now, that is an interesting... that right there is an interesting statement, that it's for the fans above all else, and that truly is what Lucas said. Not that he warned him about toxic fandom. But I'll let you guys listen to this for yourself. This is Ron Howard. This is at Sundance. He's doing an interview with this dude from Collider who sounds just like he looks. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this.
The thing that I have found over the last few years is that, it wasn't this way when I was younger, but there is a toxicity in fandom where people are like, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, you obviously took on Star Wars. There are so many people that love it, and you're always going to have people that say, oh no, that's not for me. Right. Did that sort of turn you off to that kind of a movie? Or did you sort of say, well, this happens on every movie?
Well, it doesn't happen on every movie with that kind of intensity, but it sort of goes with the territory when you have, really high level intellectual property. There's a bit of that when I did The Grinch 20 years ago, but George Lucas is a mentor, a tremendous friend. He warned me, and he's always said, hey, look, it's for the fans, and yet you have to have the courage to, hear them, but tell the story you want to tell. And so he's all for the galaxy expanding and experimenting.
So listen to that. It's for the fans, and you have to hear them, but still tell the story you want to tell. Does that sound like George Lucas is warning Ron Howard about toxic fandom? Is that fandom that's toxic to you? It's for the fans. You have to hear them, but still be able to tell the story you want to tell. Take fan feedback and understand it, yet you can't let it necessarily compromise the story. So that doesn't sound like toxic fandom really to me, does it? And we'll finish the rest of what Ron Howard says here. Back it up just a touch.
To hear them, but tell the story you want to tell, and so he's all for the galaxy expanding and experimenting. That's what he prefers the most. He gets most excited about those that want to push the boundaries of what a Star Wars movie or TV show. And he'd always contemplated TV shows. Of course, he did the animated and so forth. I think I was sort of prepared for it.
Are there still
So that's when that's how you title an article that George Lucas warned Ron Howard about toxic fandom, because this guy says toxicity once in his 30-second question, and then Ron Howard answers it in a way by saying that George Lucas he told him that Star Wars is for the fans and you have to listen to them but still tell your story. That doesn't sound like toxic fandom to me. When I heard the interview, I realized what this article actually was. They have the thing right here. This is the quote that we just listened to, but you don't need to read it now. The filmmaker went on to note that while Star Wars stories should excite fans, Lucas himself is most excited by storytellers trying to push the franchise into unexpected directions, and that's where he said the galaxy expanding and experimenting. And that's honestly one of the problems with Solo. There's not really a lot of expanding. There's not really a lot of experimenting. Solo is a very forgettable movie. It doesn't really push any boundaries. At least it didn't to me. It had that stupid Darth Maul cameo that went nowhere. What a stupid thing to have Darth Maul come in there, show that it's Darth Maul, pull his lightsaber to the side, ignite his lightsaber for no reason, just to show it's Darth Maul, to tease something at the end. That has completely fallen through because no one has any interest in seeing Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo again. It was not a good movie. However, I don't blame that all on Ron Howard. He had to come in there at the last second, reshoot the entire thing basically from scratch on a very crunched timetable. And one of the things I liked about Ron Howard and Solo was the fact that in the response to it, he didn't come out and say, these people are idiots, they're racist, they're misogynist. They're racist because they didn't want to see Lando Calrissian, or they didn't want to see this droid with feminist rights. These people are sexist. What Ron Howard says was, I thought we did the best we could, that we made a good movie, and I just wish that more fans would feel the same way. That's all he said. At least as far as I could tell. So I can appreciate someone who comes and has that type of approach to it. And I do think that you can tell that maybe he learned a little bit from what George Lucas had said, that kind of what he said resonated with him, that it is for the fans and you do have to listen to them, but at the same time tell your story and respect them. Well, when Howard enlisted in the galaxy far, far away, he had the unenviable task of not only finishing production, but also helming the reshoots. While it's surely an exciting opportunity, Solo ended up feeling the unearned brunt of backlash from the fans. I don't actually think it didn't have the same backlash that Solo did. It just had complete disinterest. Nobody went and saw Solo. And it was just boring and forgettable. With only weeks left of production, Solo directors Lord and Miller departed this project, citing creative differences between them and Lucasfilm. Oh, have we heard that before, Colin Trevorrow? Have we heard that before, Gareth Edwards? Thank you, Kathleen Kennedy, who is still running her mouth at the BAFTA Awards, talking about, oh yeah, we'll definitely have a female director of Star Wars. Meanwhile, not having any idea who the actual directors are going to be, just paying lip service to that because that's all you care about is identity politics. Hitting theaters 6 months later. Oh, here we go. Hold on. We almost skipped this. You can't forget about The Last Jedi. Later that year, Star Wars The Last Jedi landed in theaters, and despite it being critical and financially successful, its storytelling decisions alienated some fans. 6 months later, Solo earned relatively positive reaction from fans and critics, yet it fell short of financial expectations because Solo lost money. We all know this. Despite there being no one conclusive reason for the film's underwhelming box office, some fans claim Solo's numbers as proof that Lucasfilm had killed the franchise and lost its major fan base. And then the next one that comes out, Rise of Skywalker, also significantly underperforms. So maybe there's a little bit of truth to that. Stay tuned for details on the future of the Star Wars franchise. And there you go. You entitle this, George Lucas warned Ron Howard about toxic fandom. And I just don't think that's true when you really listen to what he said. And I think I can really appreciate, if that's a direct quote from George Lucas or a paraphrase, whatever it was that Ron Howard was giving us. I think that we all can understand that that is something that George has said, the whole time. I do think that the prequel reaction did frustrate him, that he was probably upset with the way people responded to the prequels after pouring your heart and soul into something and have critics just absolutely drag it through the mud for years and years and years. For their reasons, yeah, I can definitely see how he would be a little frustrated, and probably one of the reasons that he sold the franchise the way he did to Disney. However, at the end of the day, George Lucas has always understood that the fans have an important voice in fandom, especially in Star Wars fandom. And fans are the ones that kept it alive for so long. You know, after 83, in Return of the Jedi, we didn't have any Star Wars till 1999. But because of fan demand, because of the Star Wars expanded universe, and the raging success that we had from some of the biggest things, you know, like Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command, the Thrawn trilogy, things like that, interest in Star Wars RPGs, Star Wars video games even, all these things that involved the fans and fans demanding more Star Wars is one of the reasons that George Lucas was able to actually do the prequels and see his vision come to reality. And George has always understood that, and I think that that's the way that Ron Howard explained it. I can believe that George Lucas told him that. What I can't believe is that he uttered the words toxic fandom, because that's just too soy. I can't believe that it happened. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Ron Howard was warned about toxic fandom from George Lucas, like the headline claims? Or do you think that George simply explained to Ron and said that, you know, the fans have a voice and you need to listen to it, but at the same time, you can't necessarily let it compromise the story you want to tell? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video out there, ring the bell for notifications, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.